Welcome to the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers. There are no traffic jams along the extra mile when you're studying for your bar exam. And now your hosts, Jackson Mummy and Megan Saya from Celebration Bar Review.
Hey everybody, welcome. Today is Wednesday, September 21st. We got June and Megan here. I actually feel semi-human. Thank you for covering for me, particularly last week, Megan and June. That was great. But I'm back. And we are ready today to talk about Florida results and some other results. We'll answer some student questions. And we've got a few things to talk about. So welcome, Megan. How are you today?
Yeah, doing well. I'm glad you're back, Jackson. I have to say, it's, not as much fun when it's just a monologue for me to just hear myself talking for 45 minutes. No fun. So it's much nicer when I get to chat with you about all these things rather than just rattle them off.
It's good. I appreciate it. It was a tough week. It was a tough week. There was just a lot going on. And this week has been a crazy week as well. And we are headed towards boot camp, and we got lots to say there. And June, I know you've got lots to talk about with us with boot camp as well. So Megan, I'm going to kick it back to you, and you started off and tell us where we're headed.
Awesome. All right. Welcome, everybody. June, so good to see you. I'm so excited that I get to see you in person soon at boot camp. It's so fun. We work across the country from each other. It's always a good time. June, let us know first off what's happening with group coaching. I think it's all underway now, correct?
Yeah, the gang's all back. All the coaches are in session, as we call it. So it's super exciting to have everybody back. Our group coaching calls are open to every registered student. It's part of your course. You can attend 1, 2, 3, or all 4. So tonight is my mindset group coaching call. I focus on mindset. If you're feeling overwhelmed, join me, as I posted in the group, for the one mindset shift you can do to stop feeling overwhelmed all the time. It really does work. And then Sunday is babka. If you need some motivation, ray of sunshine, need to be like, why am I doing this to myself? Go to Bobka's call. He is a former student who passed with Celebration, and he's an amazing coach, especially if you're a foreign trained attorney. And then Amanda is back. Her first call was this past Monday. I heard that it was amazing from a few students. She does a great call. She is also alumni and a student that passed with CBR. So join her call. And then Brianna is on Tuesdays. And if you need, what do you say, Jackson? Drill sergeant, kick in the butt. If you need to figure it out and just have someone to really hold you accountable with love, because Brianna is amazing and such a fun person, join Brianna's call. You will not regret it. So that's where we're at with group coaching. Again, every week.
And we want to congratulate Brianna. She just made partner in her law firm.
Yes.
It's really exciting, isn't it, to see people come through, pass the bar, get into their legal careers, and then after a little bit of time, really starting to shine their careers. I also want to call attention to Philip Arroyo, who's a Florida attorney. He passed with us. He's just opened his own firm, and he is absolutely killing it doing criminal defense work. I don't mean that, but he's doing a great job with his firm, and so congratulations to him. And there are many of those stories, but it's always fun to hear from our former students and to see all the cool stuff they're doing.
It's so exciting because at one point they were all on my group coaching call.
Yeah.
So it's amazing, like you said, to really see them flourish and shine and do what they're here to do.
Yeah. And Megan, you don't look old enough to have, taken all these people through this all these years. You got that same experience raising your babies through this.
Yeah.
Come out and practice. It's pretty cool, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really awesome to see people. And that's I know we talk about this a lot, that's really why we do what we do, is because we know that you all are such amazing people who will add so much to the legal profession, and we want to help you do what you need to do to get over that hurdle so that you can move on in your career and do the things and accomplish the goals that you have in front of you. And it's really amazing to see that happen. Yeah, that's I love hearing that stuff.
It's funny, Megan. I always say on my group coaching calls that we become friends after a while, and I adore everybody. But if I never see them on my group coaching call again, I will be so thrilled. It will not, because that means they passed and they're moving on and they're going to go do great things.
Exactly. That's what I always say too, was my last call with students. We work so closely together over a period of many months. And then I say, I hope I never see you again. I hope you never see me again. That would be the thing that would make me the happiest because you've passed and you're done and you never have to think about the bar exam again, which is great. All right. Awesome. Just one programming note real quick. There's no webinar next week. Jackson and I both will be on vacation. I don't know. Jackson is not great at taking vacation, so I don't know how much he's actually cutting back, but I will be having no calls with my students next week. I will be celebrating my birthday and enjoying time with family and going and enjoying the sunshine. Yeah, so there will be no webinar next week. We will resume again after that and be on a regular schedule.
Yeah. And I will be doing some calls. Megan's right. But June will also be here to cover everybody. And of course, we'll still have results coming in, a lot going on. We're just taking off that week. And then we start to get close to the 4-month period before the February exam. That happens in mid-October. So this is our last opportunity to catch our breath. And then we jump into boot camp and then we're off to the races. It's on at that point. Yeah, so there you go. All right, Megan, give it back to you.
Yeah, see, that's what happens when you work in bar exam world, is that you have to schedule your vacations around the bar exam. So everything is, oh no, I can't leave in July. That would be terrible, right? Everything's like the end after people are in their tests or before the February exam. Yeah, wonderful. All right. One last announcement, Jackson. You can chat about this. The boot camp deposit deadline is approaching. I am getting so excited for boot camp. How about you?
Yeah, this is, it's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It is a lot of work to get ready, but I am excited about it. We still have a few spots left open. The deadline to register is this Friday, the 23rd. Now, if we still have spots open after the 23rd, we're going to keep them open to you, but this is the primary deadline. If you've made a deposit, you're going to need to pay your balance to secure your seat by the 23rd. So that is a critical date. If you don't make that deposit, if you don't pay the balance, we'll refund your deposit and open up your seat. We do have a few seats still left, and we've had some students that failed their July exams who have just registered. It's not too late to do that. The boot camp will be October 14th and 15th here in Celebration. It's a live 2-day event. June and Megan will be joining me, and Megan will be doing writing training. And again, in a small group, this is incredibly valuable. And June will be doing mindset coaching, and she's got some surprises as always. That's why we call her the fairy godmother. She's already told me about some of the things that she's going to do and presents that she's going to bring. And I'm going to teach you how to photo read and how to mind map and how to put all that together. And one of the interesting things, Megan, is I've seen a fair amount of results coming in. We're going to talk about some today, including the Florida, but I'm seeing people missing by just a point or 2 or 3. It's really close. And I know that there's enormous frustration when you get that close and you don't make it. And we're in this very difficult bar exam environment, and this is more and more prevalent. But the truth is, if you're that close, for goodness sake, put the resources in and get yourself over that finish line. Don't quit on the 5-yard line. And that's what a lot of people end up doing, or they say, I'm almost there, I won't have to do as much. That's not true. You need to make a big push to get over the top. Now, typically, when you're a couple points under passing, if you make that big push, you get way over passing and you go, how did that happen? But that's the reality of the bar exam. So if you came up close on your bar results in July or anytime in 2022, and you're thinking, I don't know, does boot camp make a difference? Yeah, it makes a huge difference. If you're trying to figure out how to gain 2, 3, 4, 5 points, are you kidding me? You should be at boot camp, right? There's no question about it based on our historic record. You want to add anything to that, Megan?
Yeah, I just think that boot camp it's for everyone in part because it's so individualized. So that's
Yeah.
the reason why that it's no matter where you are in it, if you're sitting here thinking, gosh, I don't know if it's for me because here's my situation XYZ. It really is because what happens is I have been working on my piece, but I can only work so far on the stuff that for the people who I know are coming. So as people get added, I'm like, all right, great. What jurisdiction are we in? What's their background? Have they done personal writing workshop? Have they done any coaching with me or with Jackson? Have they done anything with June? And I am tailoring what I'm going to be doing to the actual individuals who are going to be there. So if you find yourself, and I know same with Jackson and with June. So if you find yourself saying, oh, I'm not sure if it really fits my particular circumstance, it really does because what we do is we mold it to exactly the people who are going to be there. And that's the way we've always done boot camp. And it's one of the things I love about it so much is that I'm able to work with people directly where they are, but in an environment where we're also collaborating, which is so fun and unique. And I love that.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any way to express to you what it's like to have June and Megan and I in the room working together. There's an interplay. There's the ability to connect at different levels. So I might be doing something with photo reading, and June senses that somebody's having trouble and they're just giving up. And she's going to come beside that person and get with them. Or Megan might be saying, I can see you're struggling with your mind map and here's how you do it. That kind of hands-on coaching is invaluable. In addition to which, if you have photo read, I'm going to make you a better photo reader. If you have never photo read, I'm going to teach you to photo read. And I can teach you better in person than anybody can teach you online. That's just the reality. So if you come, I will be able to get you to the point where you are comfortable as a photo reader. And I think that's a huge part of it. So please don't shortchange yourself. Don't shortchange your bar prep. You're going to be really mad if you come up short on the next exam and you go, man, what else could I have done? You could have come to boot camp. And it's just something I think you should do. Now, I know a lot of you are saying, well, I don't think I can afford it. I don't think you can afford not to do it, to be honest. And we've tried to make this pretty affordable. We're going to cover all your meals. The only thing you got to do is take care of a hotel. And there's lots of hotel options in the Orlando area at a lot of different price points. And you got to handle your transportation. For a lot of people, it's a drive into Orlando, so they don't have to fly. For other people who have to fly, there are still pretty good airfares available. We've got you Friday and Saturday, so you can get out of here at a reasonable hour and keep your expenses to a minimum. So again, we really hope you join us for boot camp. Please don't get shut out. We're limiting this to 15 students. That's 15. I think, Megan, when we first started doing this, we were up at 40 or 50 students. So this is a huge shift for us to go to such a small environment. And I think that's part of the reason the three of us are excited is we actually are going to know who's there and what you need, as you said, and we're going to tailor this to your needs.
Yeah, it's going to be a great opportunity. So I'm really excited. I'm excited about the people who I already know are coming. Some of you I've worked with in smaller sort of personal writing workshop or maybe one conference sort of stuff. Some people are brand new to me and I'm really excited to get to see how you write and see how I can help you. So it's going to be great. Super excited. All right. So with that said, let's turn to results. We got a lot this week. I'm going to try to move through them fairly quickly. And then when we get to Florida, which is the last one I have, then we will have a bit more of a deep dive with Jackson because, of course, we know we have a lot of Florida students. All right. So I'm not going to lie to you. Looked a little bleak for most of the states that came in this week. It was a rough week. First up, we have Idaho with a 64% overall pass rate. Last year it was 62, so that's good, a little bit better. Nebraska also went up. They actually had great numbers, 80% overall, up from 72%, 82% first-time takers, 38% repeaters. That being said, last year, 56% of repeaters passed. So smaller jurisdiction, but just I want to note that the repeater pass rate did go down. Kansas has a 75% overall pass rate. That is really pretty much on par with last year. They had an 8% repeater rate, down from 39% last year. Again, small jurisdiction, but really obviously huge drop in the number of repeaters who passed.
Yeah, and I want to jump in a little bit and talk about those two results in Kansas and Nebraska. I think part of what we're seeing, tell me what your sense is, Megan, but I think what we're seeing is bar discouragement. I think a lot of people are just giving up and they're not going in to take the exam when they're repeaters. They've seen that 20% or less number for repeaters and they're giving up. And I talk to a lot of people who are thinking about taking the course and resetting. And the big thing that I'm trying to get them to understand is you're not a victim of these numbers. You don't have to live in these numbers. Our students are doing better than this. What you need to be able to do is have a different approach to your study. But I think a lot of people are just throwing up their hands and saying it's an unfair system and I can't beat it. And they're walking away. And so we get these really small numbers of people.
Yeah, I think too, and I know Jackson, you've talked about this for years, and it's backed up by the study that the New York Board of Law Examiners did, that what they found is for repeaters, you have to do something different. So if the first thing you did not work for you, that's okay, but you can't continue to drive into that same wall over and over again. You need to find another strategy. And so that's what we try to offer our students, is a different strategy, a different way of writing, a different way of approaching the multiple choice, a different way of studying, a different way of putting together a schedule and a way to manage their studies on the lead up to it, because let's find something that's a different path forward for you. It's okay. And I don't want people to spend time or waste time beating themselves up over, gosh, the traditional path didn't work for me. That way that everybody does it, it didn't work for me. That's okay. Clearly, we're seeing very low first time repeat or first time taker numbers as well. So it doesn't work for a lot of people. That's okay. It's not any sort of indictment of you, but let's not try and keep doing the same thing over and over again. Instead, let's try a different path. And so that's what we try to provide for our students, which I think is why a lot of people find it to be successful for them, is that it's not that there's anything magic in what we're saying, but sometimes it's just, hey, if that didn't work, let's shake up things a little bit for your brain. Let's get out of this funk so that you walk in feeling confident and feeling, hey, I am prepared and I'm not just going to do the same thing that I did last time and see the same result.
Yeah, and I talked to a lot of people that took other courses and they failed and then they retook them and they got the same result and then they bailed because nobody else offers a lifetime pass guarantee. I think we're the only company that does that. And so then they just start giving up or as Megan said, they just keep trying to do the same thing over and over again. And that's what you're seeing in these numbers. These are people who are not coming to Celebration Bar Review. They are people who are trying to do something on their own, or they're trying to repeat the same old thing. And the numbers don't lie. You are not going to pass this exam very easily, if at all, if you're just doing the same thing that didn't work for you already. So even if you're in our course, when you take our course, we might suggest different approaches to you, like Bootcamp or other things that you can do to enhance your study, but we don't want you doing the same thing over and over again if it's not working. And I just find that just so frustrating and so heartbreaking, don't you? That people just keep banging their head against that wall. And we see these numbers, and you've got a couple other states where the numbers are pretty miserable as well. So the repeat numbers don't lie. You are not going to pass this exam doing what you did before. Traditional bar prep for a repeater just doesn't work. There's no universe in which you can say Barbary, Kaplan, Themis, Adaptabar, et cetera, that their repeat bar taker courses work. They don't. The numbers tell you that they don't.
Yeah. So let's look at the next states, seeing really similar things and even harder at some of them. Utah came out 84% overall pass rate. This is just down from 86% last year. So really right on the money almost. But again, there was a 15% repeater pass rate, down from 37% last July. And then in Vermont, they had a 50% overall pass rate this year, down from 54% last year. They had a 60% first time taker and a 0% repeater. But yeah, I will say caveat because I saw those numbers. That's a first. I've never seen 0%. I want to just couch that with, I believe there were fewer than 100 takers overall in Vermont in July. So this is a very small sample size. And again, this is the stuff I tell you guys this because I don't want you to panic, but I want you to do something different. And I want you to take it seriously too. I see a lot that people think not by the time they, when they come to us, they're serious and they're ready. Like all of you are like, okay, I'm in. But I do see a lot of the sort of feeling out there of, okay, I failed the first time. That's okay. It happens. I'm just going to do a little more. That's all I need to do is just a little bit more. And I think when we're seeing 8% repeater, 15% repeater, 0% repeater, it's clear that it's not just, oh, I'll just do a little more. I'll just work a little harder. That's not the problem. So I say that as hopefully a comfort and an encouragement to you guys that I think you are trying to do something different. You're trying to not just work harder, but work smarter. You're trying to help and work with us to diagnose what do I need help specifically with. That's what I love again about Bootcamp too. It's not just, hey, here's the one size fits all. That's our course is not that way. We really don't believe in one size fits all for you guys on the bar exam. We really try very hard to give you a wide variety of tools because we recognize that not every tool is going to be for every repeater. So for some of you, photo reading is the key that unlocks it. For some of you, it's writing workshop. For some of you, it's mindset. For some of you, it's all of that. And that's fantastic too. But we know that and we recognize that. And we want to provide you with the tools, with a variety of tools so that you can pick and say, okay, where am I needing to change my methodology? What is not clicking for me? And what can I try to boost this score? Because yeah, there's just no way around it. These repeater numbers are terrible and they're not showing any signs of getting better as time goes on.
Yeah. Did you see the Missouri numbers?
I'm not sure. I didn't see any this week. Was that last week?
I think it was last week. What I'm seeing is Missouri had a 71% overall, but a 13% repeater rate. And that was in comparison last February, it was a 51% repeater rate. So again, it's the same thing. And Missouri's usually been a pretty good state for repeaters, but we're clearly seeing in the UBE, a lot of those are UBE states. If you're a repeater, you're up against it. Don't. The wolf is at the door. I don't know what the right analogy is. The sheriff has come knocking. You are in trouble as a repeater and you need help. And if these numbers don't scare the Jesus out of you, I don't know what will, because they are it's the worst I've ever seen, frankly. I can't remember a time. Can you, Megan, where we saw repeat numbers like these?
No, it's certainly not 0% and 8%.
Yeah, that's pretty awful. And that's before we get to Florida.
Right. So Florida is interesting because they often do not release the repeater statistics. They're funny. They're very stingy about their statistics. So we may eventually get some more statistics from Florida, but here's what we have so far. So Florida had a 51% overall pass rate. This is down from a 61% overall pass rate last July. So down, that's quite a significant jump, Jackson, right? Down 61 to 51%. They had this time a 64% first time taker pass rate. That's down from a 71.6% pass rate last year. And then they did not release any repeat statistics for this exam yet. Last year, it was a 21% repeater pass rate. Obviously, looking at the numbers overall, we would expect that the repeat taker statistics were lower than that 21% for this year as well.
I mean, I think we definitely would. There's a lot to say about the Florida results. Let me start with this one piece. And I've said it before, and it's so frustrating. In Florida, the law schools in Florida, not all of them, but some of them play an interesting game. The way that Florida reports results is that you're only a first-time taker if you graduated for this July exam. You had to be a graduate in the regular academic year. So you graduated in April, May, June, whatever it is, and you took for the July exam. If you graduated last December, and the first time you took the exam was July, you're not a first-time taker for reasons that don't make any sense. So what happens is, and thank you, U.S. News and World Report and the arbiters of school rankings, schools play games. What they do is they hold students out. If you're not a great student at law school or you had trouble, they offer you a stipend to study for 6 months, or they do something to encourage you to sit out an exam. And it might be your first time taking the exam, but you are no longer a first time taker. And so when you start to see some of these numbers, you're like, whoa, what's up with that, right? If we've got an 81% pass rate from one school and a 30% pass rate from another, I don't think there's a 50% difference in the quality of the students. I think it's a difference in how they, who gets counted in the list and not. So that is an important caveat when you're looking at any of the Florida numbers. I don't think there's any other jurisdiction that does that quite that way, but it's something to keep in mind. So I think that's a problem. And I think that we have to be aware of that, and we have to factor that in as we talk about it. There were about 1,000 repeat takers in Florida. Am I right, Megan? That was the rough number. And there were about, 2,200 or so first-time takers, or what they call first-time takers. So this is a flip from February. In February, it's 2-to-1 repeat takers to first-time takers. So here we've got a higher first-time taker cohort. But again, the rates are way down. And as I do the calculation, and this is the back of the napkin calculation, so it's by no means official, but I'm seeing a pass rate for repeat takers in Florida that's about 20%. That's my rough number. That's again a very discouraging number. What's your take as you look at the numbers?
Yeah, I think what's surprising and stands out to me just is that the 51% overall pass rate in Florida is more like what we've been seeing for the February exams in Florida.
Yes.
I believe in the last 2 times the February exam was given, it was 44% this February and it was 47% last February. So this 51% is really closer to the February, which is really discouraging because, like you said, the February exam tends to have way more repeat takers. And so we expect those lower numbers just across the board in every jurisdiction. February has lower numbers because you have more repeat takers in February. And it's just not a great trend overall, certainly, that we're seeing in these jurisdictions, these super, super low overall rates, because of course, some of that is lower first time taker rates, but the vast majority of what's driving this seems to be even lower repeat takers. And as the pool of repeat takers continues to grow and grow, right, because there's so many people who take it over and over again, we're going to continue to see these pass rates go down as long as we continue to have more and more people coming in trying to take the exam multiple times and failing. The other interesting thing with Florida, Jackson, I don't know if you want to talk about this, is that there's part A and part B. And so that is a unique situation where not everyone has failed both parts of the test, but you still aren't passing if you only passed one. But then if you sit again, you only have to take the other part that you failed. And so do you want to speak at all about how that factors in with this?
Yeah. So you have the ability in Florida, as Megan said, to take part A, the Florida day, or part B, the multi-state day. Now, if you had a passing multi-state score in another jurisdiction in the last 24 months, you can waive that in. So you have a slightly skewed group that's already basically sitting for a one-day exam in Florida. There were 186 people that qualified to just took part A, the Florida part, and that was a 55% pass rate. So it was slightly better than the overall. That makes sense to me because if you pass the multi-state somewhere else, theoretically you should be able to pass Florida, but still 55%, that's really nothing to be excited about. That's a pretty crappy number. And then if you took only the multi-state, there were 231 people that took multi-state only. So they had passed Florida, theoretically, in a previous exam. They were just sitting for the multi-state. There was a 36% pass rate there. That is really low. And that is troubling, to be sure. So I've talked to people that strategically said, I'm only going to sit for one part of the exam or the other. That's not a great strategy. You should sit for both because the overlap of subjects is so great. The amount of study you do is enough that I think it's incremental to take both parts of the exam and to get the compensatory model. But these numbers tell me that if you just took part A only, or you just took part B only, you've got some challenges ahead of you. And certainly we see people on this last exam that passed part A, failed part B, or the other way around. And so they're going to study and just take the one exam. But you really got to our earlier point, you got to lean into it. You can't just coast your way through, even if you're just a point or two below. So I think that's part of what goes in. The other thing I think we have to talk about, Megan, with Florida was the craziness that occurred right before the exam. And the Florida examiners, I don't have a nicer way to put this, and I'll probably catch some flack for this, but they were, I thought, in posting right before the exam that all of the Supreme Court decisions of 2022 were testable, and all of the new rules that went into effect in Florida on July 1st were also testable. Remember, this is an exam given on July 25th. And yet, on the exam, as far as I can tell, they didn't test any of that. So I think it's almost hazy. I think it was something that had no value whatsoever. The examiners knew what was going to be on the test. There was no reason for them to make that announcement. It didn't allow people to prepare for something. It actually distracted them. And I think it had an impact, don't you?
Yeah, I'll be really interested to see what the numbers look like next July, because I think that's the best way to test that out is if this 51% was really an outlier, then that means something happened. And I think the clear answer to what happened would be, yeah, right before the exam came out, the examiners told everyone that they needed to study and know this whole new series of laws and every Supreme Court case from the newest term, the most recent term. So I think that's something that we're definitely going to keep our eye on for next July to see if we jump back up. We were at 61%, we dropped down to 51%. If we jump back up again, I think it's pretty clear that that would have been the intervening cause, as it were, that contributed to such a low pass rate. There's really no other way to explain it, unless, of course, we just continue to stay down in these low places. But either way, certainly, we've said this before that Florida asked their examinees just before the exam to do something that no other examinees anywhere else in the country were asked to do, which was to absorb and understand an entirely new body of law just a week out from the exam. We prepared our students for it, but it certainly took time away from their studies in other subjects. And of course, like you said, Jackson, the examiners knew the entire time that none of it was actually on the test. So there was really no harm in just letting it lie, as they've done every other year with Supreme Court cases that obviously we know they're always announced in the summer. We always have new Supreme Court decisions coming out in May and June. This is nothing new this year. And instead, this time when the UBE, came out and said, you are not required to know this information for the July exam, Florida came out and said the opposite, even knowing that none of it would actually show up on the test. So yeah, it's just cruelty for no discernible purpose.
That's it. It just doesn't make any sense. And I'm angry. I want to congratulate our students that passed. It was an incredible accomplishment. And congratulations to all of you. I hope we'll be able to do some interviews and share some of those stories. But I have to say, it was a dramatically weird decision by the examiners. I've never seen anything in 30 years, and it has no appreciable reason behind it. And so you really have to wonder, what's the relationship between the bar examiners and the applicant community? And I just think it's wrong. And we're going to do our best to get you prepared and work. But again, if you think that you're going into a happy, supportive, loving environment to take the test, I need to realign your ideas here. This is a very miserable exam. And I'll say what I've said for a long time. If you don't have to sit in Florida like California, get out, take the UBE. I mean, go somewhere else and take those exams. This is just silliness. And yeah, so there you go. So I know I'm going to catch all when that gets out, but I just, I don't think it can go unremarked that it was a completely unnecessary step. And I think it does have an impact. We'll see, as you say, next year, we'll see what the results are, but these results are not good. And so what does that tell us, Megan, as we look forward to New York, Texas, New Jersey, Illinois, DC? We've got some big jurisdictions, and California and Georgia. Can we read anything from these numbers that we've just been talking about today across the country and in Florida as well?
Yeah, I honestly wouldn't yet. It doesn't look great, but these are other than Florida, it's mostly very small jurisdictions that have come out. And we do know that Florida is an outlier in some ways. Just like California, right? We know California's numbers are going to be low. Lately, we've felt that way with Florida, that the expectation should be that they're not going to be very good numbers. So we will have a better sense, I think, when we get New York, for instance. That's a really helpful one, I think, more of a bellwether. Texas is helpful now that Texas is UBE. It's a huge jurisdiction. I think that's helpful, but it's not as difficult, for instance, as California. California sits on its own. Don't read anything into it if you're looking at the California results. Thankfully, they come at the end anyway, so it's less, people freak out about it less. But I think I'm going to channel June here. The thing to do, no matter what, as you're waiting for results, is to control your emotional response to it. Make sure that you're aware of what's happening, aware of how you're feeling, and take care of yourself. Okay. Controlling your emotional response, not meaning don't have any bad emotions or hard emotions about this, but instead be aware of how you're feeling, and
Yep.
then be honest with yourself about how you're feeling about it. And then don't sit and wallow in sadness, anxiety, anger, fear. Go ahead and do the things that you need to take care of yourself as you wait for the results. Unfortunately, there's no magic crystal ball here that we can look in and tell you whether or not you're going to pass. So there's really nothing you can control about it at this point. If you feel like you want to start studying again because you felt, and base that on your response to the exam, not on these statistics from other exams. But if you feel like I feel a little uncomfortable with my performance on the test and you want to start studying again, it's available for you. But don't do that as a panic response looking at the numbers from other states.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. We talk about these numbers. We try to give you the update and the insights that we've got. The numbers, the sample sizes in the UBE are still too small. We don't have any big UBE jurisdictions reporting yet, and that's typical. And what's going on in Florida may or may not be comparable to anywhere else. So I think Megan's advice of look at yourself and where you think you are is really the most important. Don't try to prejudge this. And if you're looking at social media, just take it with a grain of salt. There's a lot of panic and a lot of hyperbole there. And I'm not sure that it's necessarily helpful or beneficial for you.
All right. So let's turn in our last 5 minutes here to we just had a couple of student questions, and I think we'll be able to zip through them fairly quickly. All right, Jackson, does every subject come with essay questions? Do I get to practice essays in the course?
Yeah, well, regardless of what course you're in our course, there are essay questions where they are part of the exam. So in Florida, there's essay questions, in California and Georgia and UBE. All you have to do is follow through the study guide. Sometimes people start jumping around and they try to figure it out and cherry pick it, and then they get confused. If you just follow through assignment by assignment, you'll get to everything. We'll assign work to you in every section, and we'll give you plenty of essays to do in every part. Now, there are some subjects that are multiple choice only in certain jurisdictions, and we'll point that out where that's the case. So don't overanalyze, don't overthink it. It's all there for you. We've done it before. We promise we're not missing anything.
All right. Next is a July 2023 student who's already says they're struggling to start prepping for their exam, which this is you should talk to June, because if you're stressed about, and you're July 2023, should not be stressed about your schedule yet, for sure. Never get stressed about your schedule, but definitely not almost a year out from the exam. So this student said, Do you think I should take the MPRE before my bar exam or wait until after the bar exam?
It doesn't really matter. If it would relieve your stress to take the MTRA first just to get a test under your belt, by all means do it. You get a couple of opportunities. There's a November test coming and you can register. I think you can still register for that one. And then there's a test right after the February exam. So I think it's in March of 2023. And then there'll be a test in August of 23, which you'll get the results back before you get your bar results back. So it doesn't really matter. The MPRE, Megan does the teaching there. She's probably better capable of saying this than I am, but I think it's about 30, maybe 40 hours of total study time. So it's not a huge amount of study time to get ready for that test. And it's basically a compliance test. You're not going to have trouble passing it, I don't think. So to me, it doesn't really matter. Do you have a feeling one way or the other, Megan, about it?
I think it's good advice of where would it be helpful for you. So if you're already stressed about your test more than a year out, would it be helpful to get the MPRE done with? Then go ahead and get it done with. But if you feel like it would be one more thing on your plate, then that's okay. There's no right or wrong for that, but it's a good question. All right. And then last question is a great one. I received my July results and was unsuccessful. What happens now? What should I do next?
Yeah, a couple of things are going to happen. First of all, as Megan has said, you shouldn't be discouraged and you shouldn't give up. I will prepare a personalized video for you as soon as I get your score sheet. So sometimes people send me an email and they say I failed, and I appreciate knowing that, but I need the scores in order to do something. So I will make a video for you. It's usually 5 to 10 minutes in length. I'll go through the scores, I'll explain the score sheet, and I'll make recommendations for you based on what I think you should be doing. And I may talk to Megan or June before I do that. And we will give you the outline of what we think you should be doing next. In general, it's to get started, and it's right now putting in about 20 hours a week of study. So those are two recommendations we would make. Generally, we will say don't skip anything. Make sure you're working through all of the steps and building up from there. We might recommend photo reading to you if you didn't use that before. We might recommend some coaching for writing if you need that particular work. And right now, we're telling you to come to Bootcamp. I think that's the number one thing you can do. And I'm glad to see we've got some people. In fact, it looks like we had some people just paying for their boot camp while we were talking today. That is a big step to take, and that's what I would recommend. Do you have recommendations for people as they're restarting up?
Yeah, I think that's great. It's good. You have plenty of time. And so I think a lot of it is going to be take a deep breath and recognize that there's no need to panic right now and there's no need to cram it all in. You have plenty of time, but work methodically. Don't look at the calendar and say, okay, great, I'll start it in November, right? Or I'll start it in October, which is going to turn into mid-October, which is going to turn into, well, after Halloween, after Thanksgiving. So go ahead and get started now. I'm going to be a broken record this year of saying that future you will appreciate it if you start the work now rather than waiting. It happens every year with the July exam. With the February exam, we hit the new year and people panic because it felt so far away. And then they get through the holidays and suddenly it's going to be 2023 and they're going to feel like the bar exam is happening imminently. Don't do that to yourself, please. Okay. Go ahead. If you know that you need to retake, then that is a gift that you have tons and tons of time. And there are thousands of people literally across the country who are jealous because they're going to find out that they failed and they will not have the luxury of this time. They won't find out they failed until right before Thanksgiving. So use this time wisely. It doesn't mean you have to be putting in 20 hours a week if that's not feasible for you right now, but you need to be putting in consistent work. That's really what I want to see from people is consistency.
Yeah. All right. We will be back in 2 weeks. Hope everybody continues on with their studies and continues to move forward. Remember, boot camp deadline is this Friday. Don't miss out. It's a big deal. And if you need anything, reach out and let us know. Thank you, Megan, for being here. Thank you, June, for being here and being on the chat box. Hope everybody has a great couple of weeks and we'll see you. It will be in October, won't it? Wow.
It will, yes. Yeah. Have a wonderful couple weeks, everybody.
Yeah. Thanks very much. And we'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening and watching the Extra Mile podcast for bar exam takers at celebrationbarreview.com.